You woke up this morning with that tight chest again. No clear reason, just dread sitting there like it lives in you. And the harder you try to think your way out of it, the worse it gets. There's a reason for that, and it's not what any anxiety video has told you. The fix isn't managing the worry, it's seeing through it. In this video, I'll show you number one, why your brain generates worry by default, and the root cause story. Neuroscience and a 5,000-year-old text agree on number two, why evening anxiety spikes aren't random, and what's actually happening in your nervous system when the sun goes down. Number three, the one identity shift that ends the anxiety loop permanently, plus a daily practice you can start tonight. Let's get into it. A few years back, I was talking to a guy, late 30s, successful by every external measure. He told me something I've never forgotten. He said, I've tried everything: therapy, medication, journaling, cold showers, and I still wake up every morning feeling like something terrible is about to happen. Then he paused and said, I feel anxious because I'm worried about being anxious, and I don't know how to get off that loop. That's not a rare case. That's the comment section of every anxiety video on this platform. And what nobody was telling him, what I want to show you today, is that the loop isn't a malfunction. It's the default setting, and you can change the default. Picture a boat on open water, no one steering. The wind picks it up and carries it wherever it wants to go, toward rocks, into fog, in circles. That's the image Krishna uses in the Bhagavad Gita when he describes the uncontrolled mind. He tells Arjuna that the restless mind, left to itself, pulls consciousness away from clarity and into endless cycles of craving and anxiety. He calls it the greatest enemy of the self. Modern neuroscience has a name for exactly what Krishna was describing. It's called the default mode network, the DMN. It's a cluster of brain regions that activates whenever you're not focused on a specific task. When you're not actively doing something, this network switches on and starts generating thoughts. And what kind of thoughts does it generate? Mostly self-referential ones, memories of the past, projections into the future, comparisons, regrets, worst-case scenarios. Researchers at Harvard did a study where they pinged people randomly throughout the day and asked two questions. What are you doing? And is your mind on what you're doing? 47% of the time, people's minds were somewhere else entirely. And the study found that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. Not sometimes, consistently. The Vedic tradition adds a layer to this that neuroscience hasn't fully mapped yet. In Ayurvedic and Vedic psychology, there's a concept called vata, one of the three fundamental energies that govern the body and mind. Vata is the energy of movement, air, and space. It governs the nervous system and mental activity. When Vata is balanced, the mind is creative, clear, and responsive. When Vata is aggravated, the mind becomes like that boat in the wind, scattered, fearful, future obsessed, unable to land. And what aggravates Vata? Irregular sleep, too much stimulation, constant screen exposure, skipping meals, cold and dry environments, and above all, the habit of consuming information without integration. Sound familiar? The reason this matters for how to stop worrying is that it reframes the whole problem. You're not broken. Your brain isn't attacking you. The default mode network is doing exactly what it evolved to do: scan for threats, rehearse scenarios, keep you alive. The Vedic framework calls this the lower mind, the manas, the reactive processing layer. It's useful, but it was never meant to run the whole show. The practical takeaway from this section: stop trying to silence the worry. That's fighting the boat in the wind. Instead, start noticing when the DMN has taken the wheel. The moment you can observe the thought loop rather than be inside it, something shifts. You haven't fixed it yet, but you've created distance, and distance is where the work begins. Almost every person I've ever worked with on anxiety says the same thing unprompted. It's worst at night. Sometimes they can barely explain it. One person told me, I have to go for a drive late at night just to get away from it, but it just gets in the car with me. That image stopped me because it's so precise. The anxiety isn't in the house, it's in the mind, and the mind travels. So why does it spike at night? There are several converging reasons, and understanding them is more useful than any breathing technique I could hand you. because when you understand the mechanism, you stop fighting yourself. First, the neurological reason. During the day, you have tasks, conversations, external stimuli. These all force the prefrontal cortex, the rational executive part of your brain, to stay engaged. That engagement suppresses default mode network activity. When evening comes, the tasks end, the stimulation drops, and the DMN fires up unchecked. All the thoughts you outran during the day are waiting for you. Second, the cortisol curve. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, follows a natural arc. It's highest in the morning, which is why you can often push through stress during the day, and it drops toward evening. That sounds like it should mean you'd feel calmer at night. But here's the counterintuitive piece. When cortisol drops, your brain's ability to suppress anxious thoughts also drops. The buffer weakens. The thoughts get louder. Third, and this is the Vedic angle nobody else is talking about, Vata is the dominant energy between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., and again between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Vedic daily rhythm charts, called Dinacharya, have mapped this for thousands of years. The late afternoon and evening window is when the wind energy in the nervous system is naturally elevated. Without grounding practices to counterbalance it, the mind becomes hyperactive precisely when the day's structure falls away. This is why the advice, just relax in the evening, fails for most people. You're not failing to relax. You're hitting a biological and energetic window that is structurally more vulnerable to anxiety. The solution isn't willpower, it's ritual. Vedic practice prescribes grounding activities at the Vata window: slow movement, warm food, low light, deliberate breath, and reduced information intake. Modern sleep research says almost the same thing and calls it sleep hygiene. But the Vedic framing is more useful because it tells you why. You're not winding down for comfort. You're counterbalancing a specific energy that will otherwise carry your mind into the night. The practical takeaway: build a hard stop at 7 p.m. for news, social media, and work email. Replace it with something that grounds the body: a slow walk, a warm meal eaten without a screen, 10 minutes of deliberate breathing. You're not doing this because it's relaxing. You're doing it because you're interrupting a biological and energetic pattern that your anxiety has been feeding off of every single night. Everything so far has been about managing the anxious mind, and management works. It reduces suffering. But there's a deeper move available, and it's the one the Bhagavad Gita is actually pointing at. Arjuna asks Krishna, if the mind is so restless, so hard to control, how is it even possible to master it? And Krishna doesn't say, try harder. He says the mind is mastered through practice and detachment. Two things, not one. Practice is the training. Detachment is the shift in who you think you are. In Vedic philosophy, there's a concept called the Sakshi. It translates roughly as the witness or the observer. The Sakshi is the awareness behind the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. The awareness that notices the thoughts happening. Think about it this way: when you're anxious, you're not just having anxious thoughts, you're convinced you are the anxiety. The thought, something terrible is going to happen, doesn't feel like a thought. It feels like a report from reality. That's the core of the loop. You've identified with the anxious mind stream rather than the awareness that's watching it. Psychology has been circling this same idea for decades. There's a technique called self-distancing, where you refer to yourself in the third person during a stressful moment. Instead of, I'm terrified, you say, Marcus is feeling terrified right now. Studies show this single shift reduces emotional intensity significantly because it creates the gap between the experiencer and the experience. Acceptance and commitment. Therapy calls it diffusion, unhooking from the content of thoughts. Mindfulness based cognitive therapy calls it decentering. The Vedic framework calls it recognizing the Sakshi. And it goes further than psychology does, because it doesn't just say create distance from your thoughts. It says the awareness behind the thoughts is your actual identity. The anxious mind is something you have, it is not what you are. When that shift lands, and it lands differently for different people, some feel it intellectually first, others feel it in the body. The anxiety doesn't disappear, but its relationship to you changes. It goes from being the weather you're trapped inside to being weather You can watch from inside the cave. Does anyone else at the end of panicking just cry because they wish they could just be normal? I've read that comment on a dozen videos, and what I want to say to that person is the crying is the Sakshi waking up. The part of you that wishes things were different is not the anxiety. It's the witness noticing the anxiety. You're already closer to the observer than you think. The daily practice that builds this. Sit for 5 minutes in the morning, before the phone, before the news. Don't try to stop thoughts, let them come. Your only job is to notice that you are the one noticing. Say it internally if it helps. Thoughts are happening. I am the awareness watching them. That's it. 5 minutes. You are training a different relationship to your own mind, the same way you train a muscle, with repetition, not force. This is how to stop worrying at the root, not by fighting the anxious mind, but by no longer being fully identified with it. The mind is still there. The boat is still in the wind. But now there's a sailor who knows how to hold the rudder. That 5 minute practice is the entry point. But knowing the entry point and actually making the identity shift stick are two different things. If you have tried practices like this on your own and the loop keeps pulling you back in, the fastest way through it is a direct conversation. I do free 15 to 30-minute calls. No pitch, no agenda, just a personal look at exactly where you're stuck and what the specific next step is for your situation. You'll walk away with a clear direction whether we ever work together or not. The link to book is in the description at dailymandraset.com Georgia consultation. It costs nothing and takes less time than the drive you took last night trying to outrun the anxiety. If this kind of teaching is useful to you, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Tell me in the comments, is your anxiety worse at a specific time of day? And what does it feel like when it hits?